Hello everyone, welcome to Spotlight on Bensenville. I'm Village President Frank Soto, and we have a great guest here today. Senator Harmon, who is our state senator, is here and joining us today. Welcome to Spotlight on Bensenville.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be back.
Yeah, it's nice to have you back. It's been a little while.
It has.
So welcome back. We just have a few questions. We'll talk about what's going on in Springfield. I think a lot of people at home read the newspapers and see what's going on and wonder about the budget impasse and whether or not we're going to be 2 years without a budget. So if you can kind of tell us or sum up kind of what is going on in Springfield regarding the current budget or even the past budget.
Well, it's a frustrating situation. I have never been more frustrated with my work in Springfield than I am now. At the same time, I keep reminding myself it's more important than ever that I do the work and that my colleagues do the work that we have to do. It's been a tough run for the last year and a half. We still don't have a real budget in place through an assembly of court orders and consent decrees and continuing appropriations and some appropriations. We've managed to put together a spending authorization that will let us limp through this current fiscal year and into the next fiscal year. But it's far from a complete budget, and it, in my view, doesn't reflect the priorities that it should reflect. We've been able to keep the schools open, which is of critical importance to so many folks across the state. We've been able to keep the basic state operations running so that when you go to renew your driver's license at a Secretary of State facility, it's open, people are there to help you. But so many of the things that people rely upon the state to do, we haven't been able to do. And it's disconcerting because real people are getting hurt, and if we don't get this resolved, more people will get hurt.
And what they're doing now, from what I understand, is there are things that are passed to just keep some things existing, but a lot of the priorities and programs that are out there aren't being funded and haven't been funded in quite a while.
That's right, and we went through an entire fiscal year without a budget in place. On literally the last day of the fiscal year, we passed a stopgap appropriation bill. Again, you really can't call it a budget, but it provided funding for those things that we hadn't funded for the full fiscal year. Looking backwards enough to get caught up on some unpaid bills, and looking forward, enough to get us through the end of the calendar year, perhaps. But again, far from a plan for a healthy Illinois.
Well, and I know from the village's perspective or a municipality perspective, a budget is really kind of like your roadmap of all the things you want to do in the upcoming year. We plan out, road projects, and we segregate funds for those projects. And it is the spending from, we're a calendar year, unlike the state, which is a fiscal year, is, our spending is kind of situated for each month for every project we're going to do in the spring, fall, and winter. And it really, our goal is to stay within the, that roadmap, what we determined earlier as our higher priorities. And that's kind of like how the state's budget would normally work.
It's how it's supposed to work. And I would go farther. I would say that the state budget is a moral document in many ways. It is the most important thing we do or should be doing. It's reflecting the priorities that we have for our state and assigning the resources to make sure we can implement those priorities. And the way we've been doing it now is really a disservice to so many of the most vulnerable citizens in Illinois who don't have a loud voice in Springfield, or at least not a loud enough voice. And we've been fairly cavalier as a government about just telling those folks to wait. And I'm very concerned about the human cost that's going to exact in the long run.
Now, do you envision, I know it's going to be an election year, that after November, that the ability to have a compromised budget and a budget put in looks more likely this year than it did last year?
I hope so, but I confess I have some reservations about it. In a lot of ways, this is an important fight for us to have. It's not simply a frivolous political detour. It's a debate over what our priorities are as a state and what we should be prioritizing and what we should be funding. So it's worth fighting, but at the same time, the collateral is becoming untenable. And I hope that folks on both sides especially after the election, look at each other and say, we can't keep doing this. Too many people are in the crosshairs and are going to be hurt, and we're going to do irreparable damage to our state. But that said, I am concerned that even after the election, some folks might not see the wisdom of compromise.
Well, and the difficulty is that we hear about people leaving the state or businesses not coming to the state. The difficulty is that there are a number of incentive programs that are out there, and action that the government can take to not allow us to be in the status quo and just stay stagnant while I would call our competitor states are able to continue on, bringing in jobs and creating things. And that would be more of the, would be one of the fears I would have too, is that we're just getting behind.
It's something for us to monitor. Much of it, I hope, is some political fear-mongering. I don't think we're suffering a mass exodus of Illinois citizens. But there is a competition, and I think what most people need if they're going to make investments in their business are a sense that the state is stable and has the resources to invest both in the physical infrastructure and the human infrastructure that makes us such a great state. And without that stability and certainty, some folks are loath to invest. But I do have to come back and say what a great place Illinois is. For all of this political fighting we're witnessing right now, we are still at the center of the country. We are the crossroads of transit, and you here in Bensenville know better than anybody. Between the rail and the roads and the airports, we are right in the middle of the world. You can go to O'Hare Airport and fly directly to any commercial city in the world on a direct flight. All the freight that comes through the United States comes through Illinois. We have access to fresh water with Lake Michigan. We've got world-class universities and research laboratories. We have a well-educated workforce. We have so much going for us that even this political mismanagement can't squander that advantage. But we do need to send a message to folks that we're serious about getting our fiscal house in order and making sure that the state is stable and open for business.
I would agree, and I think there's so much to offer. All we have to do is educate other people that are out there of what Illinois has to offer, and then they'll be moving from their businesses in Texas or relocation from their Texas facilities here to Bensenville or to Illinois, and at least to this region. And I know Bensenville was very successful. We just brought a business on that relocated from Indiana to come right here to Bensenville because of what we have to offer here. And what we have to offer is more of what the region has to offer, as well as what Bensenville has to offer.
And that puts the lie to this notion that we're losing all of our businesses to Indiana or to Wisconsin because of tax rates or some other artificial thing. I just don't believe it's true. We're still attracting businesses because of the work you do, promoting Bensenville, because of the work in other communities, and we should be proud of that.
Now, what do you envision for the main area of focus, or what you would like to see occur in terms of your priorities this next year or fiscal year?
Well, I'm continuing to advance several pieces of very difficult legislation that I've been working on for at least the last year. None have gotten across the finish line, but I'm going to redouble my efforts going into the next legislative session. The first is to create a fair income tax where lower rates apply to lower income levels and higher rates apply to higher income levels. It's the tool used by almost every state that has an income tax and the federal government. It would allow us to be much more nimble in our tax policy and let people who are making millions of dollars pay a little bit more than a working family that's making $50,000 or $75,000 a year. I'm promoting the Clean Jobs Bill. This is an effort to really improve our use of renewable energy and clean energy technology. We've been able to create almost 100,000 jobs in Illinois in the clean energy space. We could create almost 50,000 more with the kind of changes in the law that I've been promoting with the Clean Jobs Bill. And then finally, I for years have been sponsoring a bill on gun dealer licensing, and with the incredible violence in the city of Chicago in particular, but also in the suburbs, we really have to think differently about guns and find a way to take illegal guns off the street and to make sure that gun dealers in particular aren't selling guns to people who shouldn't have them.
And for a lot of people, when they hear gun regulation, they think guns are being taken away, but it isn't really a situation of taken away. It sounds like it's more of a situation of regulating. People who are responsible could still have them. They're just going to be tightened up that prevent guns to just kind of disappear out of the system, and then those guns end up in places where they shouldn't.
You hit the nail on the head, and this has been clearly an evolution for me. Born and raised in the Chicago suburbs, didn't have a gun in my house growing up. I don't know many people who did. But being in Springfield with colleagues from across the state, I really have a new appreciation for my colleagues from rural parts of Illinois where guns were commonplace and guns are viewed as tools. It's not that guns are bad, it's somewhere between a gun manufacturer and a crime scene, somebody who's pretending to be a law-abiding gun owner is not. And they're buying guns and selling them to criminals, or they're stealing guns, and we need to focus on that. How does that gun go from that regular chain of commerce to the crime scene? So most guns are trafficked in from out of state. We passed a law this year to enhance the penalties for trafficking, but almost half of the guns recovered from crime scenes are sold by gun dealers in Illinois. And in fact, most of them come from just a handful of gun dealers. We don't have the tools in Illinois to regulate those gun dealers. It's done nominally at the federal level, but without any sharing of information with the state police or local police. So we'd like to have those tools just to crack down on those gun dealers who are selling to criminals. We don't need to take guns away from law-abiding gun owners.
And that's always been the problem, in a sense that there's always a few people that are operating illegally for profit, and because of that, there's regulation that needs to be done, and then we hear, regulation to kind of invoke fear of the non-responsible person, that they have to deal with the repercussions of the fact that there are a few people out there supplying an inordinate amount of illegal guns for profit.
And I think this is an area where there's plenty of room for compromise and for cooperation. I don't know any law-abiding gun owners who want criminals to have guns. If we can put some of these past issues aside and agree that we're not going to take guns away from law-abiding gun owners, let's work together on making sure they don't get in the hands of criminals.
All right. Well, thank you very much on that point, because we're going to take a break now, and we'll be back in just a few minutes with more conversation with Senator Don Harmon.
The Water's Edge Aquatic Center is conveniently located in the Redmond Recreational Complex in Bensenville. The Water's Edge is home of Fenton High School and Wahoo swim teams, featuring an indoor 8-lane lap pool and diving well. The Aquatic Center is available for private functions and parties. Learn to swim, stay in shape, or enjoy recreational swimming year-round at the Water's Edge Aquatic Center.
The Bensenville Community Library, serving a community of readers. Whether you're old or young, a lover of words, music, or computers, the library has something for you. Check out our new Kindles, toddler jams, story and movie nights, or a variety of other activities offered. For more information, call us at 630-766-4642 or check out our schedule on the web at benlib.org. The Bensenville Community Library, celebrating 50 years of library service. Staying connected is important, and at the Village of Bensenville, it has never been easier to keep up to date with what's happening in our community. On your phone, PDA, PC, laptop, or tablet, the Village of Bensenville website offers easy integration, so you'll stay connected at home, in the office, or on the road. To follow us on Facebook, simply go to the Bensenville homepage and click on the Facebook icon in the lower left-hand corner. This will take you to the Bensenville Facebook fan page. Once there, click the like button to add us to your newsfeed and receive regular updates from around town. To follow us on Twitter, simply go to the Bensenville homepage and click on the Twitter icon in the lower left-hand corner. This will take you to the Bensenville Twitter page. Once there, click the follow button to add us to your Twitter feed and receive regular community updates. To receive email and cell phone notifications, click on the Notify Me button. This will take you to the Notify Me dashboard. Once there, simply add your email address and/or cell phone number at the top of the page, and then select which service you would like to receive updates from. The most common update section is in the Newsflash Bensenville News. Click on the envelope icon for email alerts and on the phone icon for phone alerts. You can choose one, the other, or both. To watch our public access cable show or board meetings, simply click on the Bensenville Web TV button on the lower left sidebar menu of the homepage. This will take you to our streaming center, where you can play current and past Bensenville cable TV shows and board meetings. To pay your Bensenville utility bill online, just click the Online Payments button and then follow the instructions provided on our secure payment site. If you have any problem, concern, or question to tell the village, then click on the Bensenville Action Hotline button. This will take you to the Action Line dashboard, where you can explain your issue and receive a response within 48 hours once you have clicked the Submit button at the bottom of the page. Staying connected is important, and at the Village of Bensenville, it has never been easier to keep up to date with what's happening in our community. On your phone, PDA, PC, laptop, or tablet, the Village of Bensenville website offers easy integration, so you'll stay connected wherever you are.
Welcome back to Spotlight in Bensenville. I'm Village President Frank Soto, and today our guest speaker is Senator Don Harmon. Thank you for being here. You know, we had a lot of interesting conversation earlier about in Illinois and just in general, and some issues that are very timely, I think, in what's going on in the newspapers. One thing that we could get more local and kind of talk about, our district. And, it's difficult, even for myself as a village of 18,000 people to be able to communicate with everybody. How do you find time to be able to communicate directly with the people in your district, given the size of your district?
It's a big district. I represent a little bit over 217,000 people, as do all the senators in the state. And it requires a degree of engagement and desire to hear from my constituents. So we do a lot of things. I maintain regular office hours, so anyone who wants to visit can certainly schedule an appointment and come in and see me. But more importantly, I try to get out. We do town hall meetings. We're doing one here in Bensenville. I try to have regular opportunities for folks to come in to hear something about what's going on at the state and to ask questions and to make sure I hear what's concerning to them, so that when I go back to Springfield, I'm informed by the issues that are really troubling folks. We try to respond to every letter or fax or email that comes into the district office. But mostly I try to be out in the community. I learn very little sitting in my office by myself. So a big part of it is just being a regular person, a dad in the neighborhood. I go out to my kids' games and I visit with people on the sidelines. I come out to community events and just wander around and talk to folks that I have a chance to interact with. It's a good way to hear what's on people's minds. And people aren't shy. I mean, I've been lobbied in line for communion. I got a tap on the shoulder on the walk up one day. How are you going to vote on that bill? I said, let's talk after Mass, okay?
Well, and one thing that you do, and you're always great working with, is that you contact the various mayors and people that are in your district, because I'm an advocate for the people of Bensenville. So you and I have had, a number of conversations, and you've been great working with and representing the residents of Bensenville and hearing what our needs and our causes are and what our concerns are. So I know that that's another line of communication when people contact me, and then I'm reaching out to you and our other elected officials.
Well, and that's of critical importance. I represent more than a dozen suburban communities in addition to a chunk of the city of Chicago. And being in Springfield, coming back and forth, I rely on folks like you to have that day-to-day, everyday focus on your community, and to tell me when something's going on that I need to know about or I need to react to with legislation in Springfield or with a phone call to someone in state government to help make sure that the needs of the folks you represent and I represent are being taken care of.
Well, and we've had issues that you've been very helpful with. I know with some of the issues regarding the airport, with expanding the number of runways, so the airport could actually build more longer runways in other parts of the airport, so that would lift the burden off of Bensenville and some of these communities. You've been helpful there, and also with creating the new legislation for what's called the CNEL, which is a new noise standard, which Illinois and California and Europe are the first ones to put that into place. And so you've been very helpful, and like issues with noise, it's not a Democrat issue, it's not a Republican issue, it's a community issue, and everybody seems to be very in tune to try to find solutions out there. So I'm very appreciative of the work that you've done for us.
O'Hare Airport is such a critical engine for our economy in the Chicagoland region, but the byproducts are very taxing on folks, and I appreciate that. I've had planes fly over my house in Oak Park at a much higher altitude, and I can't imagine what it's like to be at the end of a runway day in and day out with those planes flying over. I feel the pain of the folks who are living in that pathway.
I was going to ask you, with your job, there's a lot to your job. Not only you have to still maintain a day job or a regular job, but you're also in Springfield so a long time, and then traveling. So there's negatives, but what are the positives? What do you like about your job?
Oh, it's a great job, and I pinch myself most every day. I'm so lucky to be able to serve and to have the support of the folks in the district. I think my favorite thing is something that's completely off stage. It's my ability to help a constituent who walks in with a problem that he or she just can't see the answer to. And if I can help them navigate the bureaucracy of state government and figure out an answer and get that solved, it gives me great satisfaction. That there's no limelight attached to it, but you can help real people solve problems that to them seem intractable. And that's a wonderful feeling, that be able to help people in that circumstance.
That's one of the things that, that I love about what we do here or at the local level too, is that it's such a direct impact. Yeah. And so you do see it, and you see it even on a much larger scale than what we do here at the village. Well,
folks bring in very real problems. The flip side is the worst part of my job is when a constituent walks in 2 weeks too late, and there's not much I can do. It breaks my heart, but when I can help them solve a problem that they just can't solve on their own, it's a good reason to get up every morning and do the job.
I did want to talk to you on a different note. I did find some video of you when I was Googling your name, and it might be worth some explanation here. I know you're an attorney, and your day job is being an attorney, and you also have a job in Springfield, but I did find some videos of you at a night job working. So when you're working,
boy.
So how many hours could you work in a day?
Playing in a band is something I do for fun, and it buoys the spirit even on the worst day. It's been a ton of fun. I grew up in high school and college and even in law school playing in bands. And dropped it for a while. But my oldest, my son, started playing the guitar when he was quite young, about 7 or 8, and we started taking some lessons together, and it really reinvigorated my interest in music, and so we've been playing ever since then. And now my son plays with us in the band, and it's great fun. So I've got the reconstituted high school band here in town, and we play a few times a year, and it's wonderful for the soul. And then I started playing in Springfield with a couple of state reps, 2 Republicans. We started to play in just a local beer garden not too far from the Capitol, and that turned into a big deal too. We ended up playing at the governor's inauguration and opening up for Buddy Guy and Toby Keith. It was
Wow.
Yeah, it was a big deal. So we've had a ton of fun with it. It's been a great ride.
So one of your bands is what you would call a garage band, your high school band, and that you still play with the same guys.
The lead singer and I were in the band back in high school. We started out with more of the original members, but life got in the way, and we've brought in some local ringers and from the music community around Oak Park and River Forest, and it's been great for me to play with guys who are so much better than I am. It helps bring the band up.
Well, no, and also you're playing with your son.
Yeah.
And that has to be a lot of fun.
It's the best part of it, to be able to share the stage with him. He's a much more talented singer than I ever could hope to be, a talented songwriter, and to share the microphone with him is just, it makes it all worthwhile.
Well, that's great.
Trying to get my daughters up there too. So
Do they play?
A little bit. My one daughter sings, and we're going to try to get her up here soon. And the other one is an aspiring drummer. So I'm just a multicolored bus away from being the Partridge Family if I play my cards right.
That could work. Now, with the music that you play, is most of it country, or do you play a lot of varieties?
We call it Americana. It's American rock and roll with some folk and country influence, but a real mixed bag. We like the eclectic nature of mixing a country song with a rock and roll song with something you've never heard, and then an old blues song. So it's
really
great to
playing
move around.
music you love.
Exactly right. A
As
good
opposed
song
to-
is a good song.
Yeah, that's true. That's great. Well, we'll have to come see you. Follow you up on. Is there a website or a place that we can follow?
You can actually go to the donharmonband.rocks. We've created a website just to capture some of the video from some of the events we've done lately.
That's great. And take a look. In fact, I think I'm going to come out and see you play. I haven't been able to actually make it to one of your concerts yet, so I certainly want to go see it.
I'd love to have you. Concert's an awfully big word, but come watch us play.
True. I do want to thank you for being here. And as we close out here, is there anything that we could talk about in terms of what the vision is for the future? There are things that could be done, where we could see more advancement, but there's still reason to be optimistic in Illinois.
There's so much to be optimistic about in Illinois. I confess, I was lucky in many ways for my first 12 years in office as a Democrat to serve in a government where Democrats controlled the General Assembly and the governor's mansion. We were able to do some big progressive things like abolishing the death penalty or establishing marriage equality. But it was difficult in a one-party apparatus to do some of the more difficult things, putting our fiscal house in order, taking tough but responsible votes to make Illinois more resilient and stable. And my big hope for shared governance with the election of a Republican governor was that we'd be able to tackle some of those issues. And I still think we'll be able to. And I hope after this election we're going to be able to put some of the partisan sniping to the side and focus on putting our house in order. And I wake up every morning an optimist. I don't always go to bed one, but every morning I get up and I believe that we can do this. It's too important to our future, and too many folks have too much riding on it for us not to do it.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Senator Harmon.
Thank you, Mayor.
I'm going to thank everybody for watching tonight, and I thank Senator Harmon for being here. And stay tuned to and watch our next Spotlight in Bensenville.